Hello, everyone. This is Solid Blue Sister, and this is my turn to talk. I hope my sound is coming through. Let's see. Okay, so this episode is going to deal with uh, do certain people get a pass to use a racial slur? And at what point do people realize it's not okay to use a racial slur for any ethnic group? Okay, so over the years, over the decades, over the centuries, stereotypes and racial slurs have developed with, certain, what do you call it, certain ethnic groups. And a lot of these, names um, have come from white people. And Miss Shishi, I am going to ask you if you can mute yourself because I hear your background noise coming through.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Good
All right.
Lord.
Here, there, I did it for you. Okay, so um, when you look at, let's talk about Native American people first. Okay, Native American people have been called some pretty, nasty names. Um, they've been called brownie. They've been called chug, which is a Canadian referring to individuals of Aboriginal descent. Um, they've been called Eskimo pie, indigenous people from the Arctic. They've been called Indian. And Indian actually came from Columbus because he thought that he had arrived in East Indies when he was sailing to America and he encountered what he called Indians. They've been called redskin. They've been called prairie nigger, which refers to Native Americans of the Great Plains. Okay, female Native Americans were called squaws. Um, Again, this was coined by white people. They've been called timber niggers, which again was used by white Americans. They've been called wagon burners. Okay, these are all names that were given to Native American people. Let's look at Africans. Okay, um, we've been called ape. And I'm saying we because I am an African American woman. We have been called ape. We've been called blue gum, which is an African American perceived as being lazy and who refuses to work. We've been called boogie, you know, buck. A buck was, a black male slave, but a buck was also a term for Native American men. Burrheads, because of our Afro textured hair, colored, coon, crow, fuzzy wuzzy, jigaboo, jungle bunny, kafir, which is in South Africa, is very offensive, and that's what white South Africans would refer to uh, black South Africans. Mammy, monkey. I mean, nigger, pickaninny. It goes on and on and on. And these names were usually given to us by white people. Now let's talk about what white people are called. White people are called crackers, hick, which is usually a term for a poor white person, hillbilly, hunky, um, which was coined from uh, African Americans, peckerwood, rednecks, trailer trash, whitey, you know. But a lot of those names, white trash, trailer trash, rednecks, those were given to white people from other white people. So let's look at this. Okay. I first of all, I want to say why I'm talking about this. I had a conversation with a friend the other day who, and most of my shows are derived from conversations that I've had with friends or conversations that I've had, in the past, not necessarily from the news. These are just conversations that I have with people. And she was talking about that she was on a conference call. She had signed in for a conference call for work. And when she signed in, she came in the middle of a conversation between a white person and a black person. And the white person was from the South, and the black person was from the North. And apparently, she doesn't know how the conversation started, but the white person was apparently saying that using the word nigger was okay if it was someone who was older from the South. If it was an older, white person, whatever, it was okay for them to use it because, that's just how they grew up. That was the environment that they were in. And that black people from the South are more accepting of that word than black people from the North. Now, I disagree on both points. That word is never acceptable, no matter who is using it, whether it's a white person using it or if it's a black person using it. But, falling back and saying, well, that's just the environment that, they grew up in or we grew up in, well, we're from the South. So you have to, you have to understand what? That you grew up in a very racist atmosphere and you think it's okay to use racial slurs? No, you don't get a pass. Do I think that black people from the South are more accepting of racial slurs than black people from the North? No, I don't. You know, you may think that they are, but in reality, I don't think so. And you should be very careful to assume that they are accepting. I say the same thing, when you make racial slurs, about Latinos, Native Americans, Asians. It's not okay. No matter what nationality you are, it's not okay. I mean, you have Asians, again, these are terms that were given to them by white people. Coolie, gook, Jap, nip, yellow, yellow man, yellow woman, Chinaman, chink. I mean, the names just go on. You know, a Chichi, who is a Eurasian, what some people in Britain, use the term half caste. Is these names again were mostly derived from white people. Now, on the other hand, you know, um, black people, Asian people, Hispanic people, Native American people, we have slurs for white people. You know, is it okay? No. I mean, I had someone ask me, why do my shows, and again, if you look back at some of the shows that I started off doing on Zoom and YouTube, my shows were mainly supposed to be about, things that happen in the news, society, whatever, this happened, that happened, whatever. But because of the time that we're living in, because of the hurdles that this country is facing, and unfortunately, more and more, to me, this is my opinion, to me, it just seems like everything is about race. So I want to talk about the things that people don't want to talk about, that they'll whisper about, and when it comes to racial slurs, That is just something, and people who know me know that I just have a huge problem with using racial slurs to anyone. And I really have a problem with people in my own race, with African Americans using racial slurs, talking to their own race. It is not cool. I've said it before. It's not cool. I don't like it. Now, I'm not the racial slur cop, and I'm not the one who's going to go around saying, you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't say that. I'm not going to pop you on the head if you're using a racial slur. But if you use it in front of me, I'm going to call you out. I don't care if you're black, you're white, whatever. Don't use it. It's just not cool. And again, we are just living in a climate where everything just seems to be, you know, uh, about race. I mean, you have voting, whether or not people want to admit it or not. The laws that are being put in place across the country in certain states have everything to do about race, has everything to do about keeping certain people from being able to vote or making it harder for them to vote. This is a fact. This is something that I'm not making up. You can say, "Oh, that's not true," or "You should have a voter ID," or "You should have this," and "You should have that." Well, okay, all right. But are you going to criminalize me if I bring someone water? Come on. Going back to racial slurs, you have people who are elected officials who are using racial slurs when they're on the House floor, or on the Senate floor, student council. I'm sorry, not student council, city councils and what have you. Why is that necessary? Why do we have to use racial slurs? No one gets a pass. It's not okay. And I personally think that anyone who uses a racial slur, any elected official, be they black, white, brown, whatever, that they should immediately be removed. I mean, you are voted to um, pass laws that are fair and would help, your state or your city, whatever. You're not there to call people names. You aren't. So I go back to once again about people getting a pass, and again this subject came up because a friend of mine was talking about a conference call that she had joined, and before the host came on, this white person from the south and a black person from the north were having this conversation, and I just want to know. If anybody wants to, I see we have Chi and we have Tuttles here. If it's if you think it's okay that people who grew up either in the South or in an area where using racial slurs were common, if if that's an excuse for them, if you can say, well, they grew up that way and they don't know any better, whatever. I mean, I think they should know better. I mean, I think that people should know that it's never been okay to call someone or use a racial slur against anyone. And I'm sounding repetitive, but there's just so many names out there. There's just so many names out there that were, you know, given to people of different nationalities. I mean, you have Italians. Um, we're called Dago, Goomba. They were also called grease balls and greasers. Guido, you know, um, just WAP is it's just there's just so many names out there that it's like why for Jewish people, Kike, Shiloh, Yid, and it just goes on and on and on. You know, I was around another African American about 2 weeks ago, and I was in Target, and I heard him. I'm standing in line to check out, and I heard him talking. He was a couple of people in front of me in line, and he was talking very loud. This is another African American, and he's just talking about Asians and just the way he was just the vitriol and the racial slurs that he was using. I said something I probably shouldn't have. People would have said is none of your business. And I told him, I said, first of all, you're talking very loud, and I said, what is your problem? And he had a problem with the fact that I guess he had gone to an Asian store, and they had stereotyped him, which I have been stereotyped by Asians going into Asian stores, and I don't go into Asian stores anymore because I've been stereotyped so many times going into Asian stores. And he was very upset, and he was just calling them all kinds of names. And I just thought that, that just wasn't cool. It's, if you're going to do it, at least, can you do it at home? But do you have to do it in public? And this is one of the problems that we have with this country, and not just the country, but across the globe. You know, no one wants to no one wants to seem to get along with someone who looks different. You know, you go on social media, and people are using words that they shouldn't. People that you may admire or think that it's okay. You turn on the news, and people are just calling people names and what have you, and it's just gotten out of hand. And this is the world we live in, not just America, but across the globe. This is the world that we live in. You can't turn on the news. I don't care what news station you listen to. You're going to have someone on there saying something it seems nasty, or showing a clip or something, or doing a story on someone who said something nasty about someone else. And it seems that it's like that every single day. When are we going to get out of this? When are we going to, you know, live as one nation? you know, because I don't know. I don't know. But the racial slurs, that a lot of that comes from stereotypes, and a lot of the stereotypes that are out there, unfortunately, have been able to marinate. I'll say over the years, over the decades and centuries, that they're just here, and people believe them. And the majority of the stereotypes out there are wrong. And usually, when you have a stereotype, you have a racial slur that comes with it. You know, growing up, um, I've always been around white people. I've always gone to school with white people. Many times I was the only one. Sometimes I was, um, one of several. But I've 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 always been around um, white people, and it's always amazed me. And I could be wrong, but again, I've had conversations with white people about this. How much they don't understand about black people, or how surprised they are, when they're around black people, or even when they're around people of another race. Because for most ethnic groups, when you think about it, and if you think I'm wrong, tell me you think I'm wrong. Um, Most ethnic groups usually have to come into white neighborhoods or white areas. When you go to work, you're going downtown or wherever city you work in, whatever, is usually another ethnic group entering, going into where white people are. It's very, you don't really see white people leaving their areas and going into another um, another area that is not where a lot of white people do not go. You usually don't. And again, if anyone thinks that I'm wrong, please tell me that I'm wrong. But it's usually us going into your areas. So growing up, um, I went to schools that were, mostly white, or they were mixed, and then working, um, I worked at places that, you know, mostly white, whatever. Um, where I live in a town with about 70,000 people. Not a lot. We've only been a city for 10 years, since 2010, so 11 years. And it just amazes me, some of the questions that I'm asked from white people, or if I hear, white people using a racial slur. And if they're using it around me, I will usually say something. Whether you're directing it towards me or towards someone else, I will usually say something. And at the same time, like I said before, if I hear another person who's not white using a racial slur, you know, I will say something. And one of the things, again, that I don't like hearing is when black people use racial slurs towards other blacks and think it's okay, or it's a term of endearment or something. No, it's not. It's not a term of endearment. This is a name that you were given to that were given to us, and we were labeled when we were slaves. Why are you going to use that and say that it's one of in endearment? It isn't. You know, um, I don't know. I don't know. We're just living in a time where there's just so much that we can do better, so much that we should be focusing our energy on. And you know across the board, we just need to stop using racial slurs, and realizing that it's not okay for anyone to use it, for anyone. So with that said, I am going to open it up. Does anyone have anything they want to say? If not, I will keep going. Okay, my two people that are in the room. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of racial slurs is why do we have racial slurs? I mean, when you think about it, um, why were racial slurs? I mean, how did they come to be? I mean, um, why are racial slurs something that is used to put another ethnic group down? I mean, if you want to, say something to a black person, why not, just say, well, there's an African American standing over there, or there's a black person standing over there, you know, um, instead of saying, you know, there's a, yes, I'm going to say the word, there's a nigger standing over there. If you're going to talk about a Jewish person, why not say, why not, why even have to refer to them as a black person or a Jewish person, or, or a kike or a spick or whatever, why can't we just say there's a person over there, there's a man over there, there's a woman over there standing over there, she needs help, or, you know, um, you know, they're doing whatever. Why do we have to label them? Why do we have to have labels for people? Why is that necessary? I mean, is it to make one group feel more superior than the other? You know, during slavery, it was to keep slaves in their place. This is who you are. Don't think that you're anything better but this. For Native Americans, it was the same way. You know, I mean, Native Americans were called savages. Why were they savages? Because they dressed differently from, you know, European white people. Because they didn't have on bonnets and petticoats, and I mean, is that why? I mean, why do we use racial slurs? I mean, you have white people who are called trailer trash, white trash, and those names again came from other white people. White people who were wealthier. Why is it necessary to say that? Okay, you have more money. This person doesn't. Why do you have to put them down? So why do we even why do we use slurs? Why are racial slurs necessary? You know, racial slurs um, continue. Um, racial slurs come with an ugly past. They come with an ugly past, and they continue to divide. And they continue to divide a country that just cannot afford to be divided anymore. We just can't. I mean, it's racial slurs are just hateful. They're toxic. They're humiliating, but they're also enduring. Racial slurs are enduring, and they last for decades and for generations, and they get passed down over and over and over again. So, at what point do we put a stop to it? Um, whether are you a racial slur is used in a hip hop song, or whether or not it's repeated in a joke, used as a term of endearment, supposedly, um, or whispered in a corporate boardroom. You know, racial slurs again have an ugly past and are divisive. And they usually come with ugly behavior, and other ugly language. Now, I'm not an angel. I am not an angel, and I do cuss, whatever. But one thing that I have never done um, was use a racial slur, and I guess I never done it was because my father grew up in the South, um, Alabama. He moved up north to Chicago, which was still considered the most segregated city in the North, um, when he was 12, and he did not like hearing racial slurs, and he made it very clear in our household with my sister and I, even my mom, that he would not put up with racial slurs of any kind towards any group of people. He would not have it, and I never did. And he would always say, would you want someone saying this to you or about you? And it was my father who really gave me the understanding of, you know, um, especially in terms of black racial slurs, how mean and hurtful they are, but also racial slurs for other races. Um, and I never have. Now, have I, growing up and what have you? I mean, even now, do I say someone's stupid? Yes, I do. you know, I say, I use other slang, whatever, but I don't use racial slurs. Um, and I call people out who do, and even my friends know. My black friends know that I will call them out if they use a racial slur, especially if they use the word nigger. I don't, just it's time for me to go. I cannot be around you. So at what point does our generation, whether you're a baby boomer, millennial or Gen Z, whatever, at what point, you know, do the generations now put a stop to it? And if we can put a stop to racial slurs, does that mean that we can put a stop to racism and all the other things that are, going on in this country or in this world? Because from the way I see it, from where I'm sitting, things don't seem to be getting better. Things do not seem to be getting better. I mean, we have a pandemic where getting a shot is about politics. Now, people get flu shots every year. Yeah, you have people who don't want to get flu shots, whatever, but, there's no politics there. When the polio vaccine came out, there was no politics. People lined up, they got polio, they got their polio shots, and for the most part, polio was eradicated in this country. You get your child, your child gets the shots for mumps and measles and what have you. You're told, like I said the other day, that that you're not supposed to smoke in buildings. You have to smoke outside. But everything has turned so political. I mean, it's just, I don't know. So if our generations, if the generations now, the generations that are living now can just put a stop to just something, to me, as simple as not using a racial slur, would things get better? You think? Maybe? I don't know. I don't know. So I have been talking. Does anyone have anything they want to say? Let's see. Tuttles, would you like to make any comments? I've always enjoyed your previous comments. No? Okay. All right. So that's basically all I have. That's all I have. You know, um, you know, you know. Remember, be, before I go, I just want people to remember something. Um, More and more, because people have cell phones and they're recording. When people are using racial slurs, it's affecting people's jobs. And when I say it's affecting people's jobs, I mean people are getting fired. People are losing their jobs because, a rant that they had where they were using a racial slur has gone viral. And the next thing you know, this person got fired. So is it really worth it? That rant that you went on, is it really worth it? Because you never know who's recording you. You don't have to worry about going into a store and the store has cameras. You have to worry about the people who are around you who are going to pull out their cell phone and they're going to start recording you. And more, you have people who have lost their jobs um, because of racial slurs. Whether you're in a store and you hear a Latino speaking Spanish, and you go on a rant about this is America, speak Spanish. I'm sorry, speak English. But yet Americans, being the arrogant people that we are, we'll go over to another country and the first thing we'll say is, well, don't you speak English? Do you speak English? Well, no. If you're in France, why don't you speak French? Why don't you speak German? Why don't you speak Spanish? But we expect people from other races to speak English here in the United States, and whether or not they should or not. Um, do I think that if you're in the United States that you should speak English? I think you should learn the language. Yes, but just like if I were to go to France, I should learn the language. If I go to Germany, I should learn the language. I should expect someone to speak you know English to accommodate me. But at the same time, if someone's in the store or whatever, speaking Spanish and they're checking out and they're not bothering me, then what do I care? I'm not going to go on a rant. But remember, if you do go on a rant, no matter what kind of rant you go on, somebody always has that camera, and somehow, some way, it just may go viral. And the next thing you know, not only have you gone viral, you know, with a million plus people, but now you don't have a job. So that's another thing that people should be careful of in terms of using racial slurs. And racial slurs, for many people, it's still poison. No matter what ethnic group you're in, that racial slur that is associated with that ethnic group is poison to those particular people. And there's just no accounting for it being okay, no matter what ethnic group you belong to. And remember that when you're using racial slurs against someone, don't forget that people can also use those racial slurs against you. And for a lot of people, sometimes, and I do believe this, that some people think it's okay because if it's not happening to you, if something's not happening to you, then you kind of shrug it off, or oh well, it's not a big deal. Well, yeah, it is. You know, um, like I said, um, I would call someone stupid, whatever, and I would get in trouble for calling someone stupid. And when you're a child in school, and even though someone may not be calling you a racial slur, being called stupid, it does hurt. It does sting. I mean, I was called stupid. Yeah, it hurts your feelings when you're a kid in school, whatever. So imagine how a racial slur would feel if someone was calling you that, and racial slurs have legacies behind it. Um, I know I said this was all I have, but I keep talking. um, you know, um, I want to go back a moment to why I think white people use racial slurs. And there has been now I could be wrong to use this particular word, resurgence. There has been, in my opinion, a resurgence of white pride. And I think a lot of it came from because of the Black Lives Matter movement. Um, and there's a lot of racism and xenophobia that drives some white people to use racial slurs. And I don't think that you're just saying it to offend, but it's like you're trying to put us in our place. This is your place. You know, um, we're going to tell you what you can and what you cannot do. Um, and, you know, just like back in slave times, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're not supposed to do. But I'm not going to go into that because that's a show on critical race theory. Um, and that can open up a whole different soapbox for me. But yeah, along the way, we have got to get a handle on how we treat our brothers and sisters. I am going to say brothers and sisters of different ethnic groups. How we treat each other within our own culture. How we treat people outside of our culture. And the thing that's pretty cool is when you start to hang out with people of different races, you may be surprised. you may you may be pleasantly surprised. That people are, they're pretty cool. Yeah, you have your assholes in every race, whatever, in every culture. You have your assholes and what have you. But you hang out with people of different races, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. You learn. You try different foods, and you know, it, you just learn things are not what you thought. They're not the stereotypes that you thought. This person isn't stupid. This person isn't dumb. This person isn't a racist. You know, um, she's really, you know, pretty cool. You know, I mean, you find things that you even have in common. People are not born racist. When children are born, they're not born racist. Racism is a learned behavior. When you pick up racial slurs, you are picking up racial slurs from usually your household, your school, your church. Your environment is giving you, you know, um, a foundation on your personality and how you're going to behave. You see all the time. You see these toddlers, black and white, Asian, Latino. They're all playing in the sandbox together. And one day, somebody says something that all of a sudden it's like, well, my mommy says I can't play with you because my daddy said you can't come over our house anymore because you were fine until your mommy and daddy said you couldn't do it. What changed? I mean, come on. What changed? I'm the same person I was yesterday that I am today. So what changed that made your mom say that I can't come over your house or your daddy say that I can't play with you anymore? What changed? I don't know. So on that note, I promise that's all I've got. Unless anyone else has anything else that they want to say. Again, I'm trying to grow this audience on Podbean. Uh, I have uploaded my YouTube shows where you do see video if you want to check out some of those shows. And I have an engagement from other people where we're actually having the conversations, back and forth. So if anyone wants to check those out, please do. And again, thank you guys. Thank you, Shishi. And thank you, Tuttles. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you next time. Bye.